Survivors, seekers, and thrivers, welcome to Transcending Trauma, a spiritual odyssey. I'm Shari Lee Roberts, living proof that transformation is real. Get ready for powerful insights, inspiring stories, and a little laughter along the way.
Hello, and welcome. You need guys to the Kimberly Crowe. Yes, the international inspirational public speaker. Keynote speaker, TEDx speaker, and an authority on speak to self. She is also a best-selling author and serial entrepreneur. She is the broadcast personality of the weekly online show Speakers Playhouse and the founder of Entrepreneurials Rocket Fuel. Kimberly is known for her expertise on audience engagement. Her mission is to make speaking on stages super fun and accessible for entrepreneurs and coaches. Kimberly is a mother of two and an adventure seeker. She, among a lot of things, has walked 800 kilometers across the country of Spain on the Camino del Norte. Real. His navigated less for rapids with one of Costa Rica's Olympic water champion. His traversed 200 miles on horseback through Canada's Jasper National Park. Beyond all of that, which is really impressive. Kimberly's motto is, if it's not fun, it's not worth doing. Couldn't agree more. Today, we are going to be talking about the impact to your life transformation when you share your narrative. Plus, Kimberly has an announcement about an epic event that you can participate in. So I encourage everyone to hang in until the end. Welcome, Kimberly. Thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me, Sherry. I'm super excited to be here.
Awesome. Let's consider with your childhood and early adulthood.
Awesome. I am an international speaker. I've spoken on over 4,000, 5,000 stages. I've done a TEDx, and people often ask me, like, were you always a speaker? And if you ask my family, they will say, well, she came out of the womb speaking and sharing her opinion and hasn't stopped since. While that sort of is true, I wasn't always in this world of speaking and helping people share their voices. I actually did what they taught us to do. I went to school, I got a good job with health insurance, and I started climbing the corporate ladder. I grew to an executive director in a Fortune 1000 company, and I was there for 17 years, and 15 of them were pretty good, and the last two, not so much. I was in, you probably are familiar with this, Sherry. I was in golden handcuffs. I was making a lot of money, but I didn't love it anymore. It just didn't make sense for me to keep going. Same world. And I think I learned a lesson from that. And it's just because you're good at something doesn't mean you're supposed to do it for the rest of your life. And I just didn't want to do that anymore. And so I stopped. And when I was young, I was often told, Kimberly, lower your voice, or we're right here. I have a very big voice. I say that I was born without an indoor voice. I only have an outdoor voice. That should be a disability or something, but it's not. And my parents would be like, quiet down. They liked that sort of quiet and peace. I was told, to lower my voice a lot. Then when I sort of came to this place in my life where I was in golden handcuffs and I was ready to leave, I wanted to break through of that. I wanted to break free of that lower your voice, be quiet, sort of behave kind of thing. I realized that we only have so many go-rounds on this planet. And if it's not fun, it's really not worth doing. So we got to do the things that are fun. And I got to stop trying to pretend I'm somebody I'm not. It's really when it all started. And it wasn't easy. It wasn't overnight, but it was the permission given to be able to raise your voice, share your message with the world, and talk about what's really important to you. If we aren't able to do that, then we can't create amazing podcasts like this one. I mean, to be able to honor your voice, Sherry, and just say, I want to help other people tell their stories and what it was like for them. And even when they were afraid, even when they facing imposter syndrome, even when they felt like they couldn't do it and it wasn't possible, to step forward and just be brave. I think you're a shining example of that.
And what told you I know when I read the point about many people, parents of friends, did not want me to get rid of the handcuff. They wanted to keep me in the adult.
Good question. So I think it's a combination of things. Yes, it's other people, but it's also ourselves. We have that imposter syndrome that we think, who am I to be able to do this? And isn't it better if I just do the thing I'm already good at? Other people are trying to keep you in that box. And they're not doing it necessarily to be mean or hateful in any way. And sometimes they are, but not all of them. It's actually the same function of your community as it is your own brain that's trying to keep you in a box, because they know, and your brain knows, that you're already safe there, that it's safe. It's a sort of a self-protection thing. Imposter syndrome is built into us so that we don't venture too far out and get, eaten by saber-toothed tigers. There aren't any saber-toothed tigers out there anymore, but there's judgment and fear of that, people that aren't kind sometimes. But that imposter syndrome serves the same purpose as those people who are wanting to keep you in that box, as you describe it, because they know you're safe there. They knew, like my family and friends, they knew if I just kept doing that, I was going to make a good amount of money. I was going to have health insurance. I was going to be, do what I was good at. I was going to continue to get raises and promotions and just, stay the course is a lot of people's advice, but it's also our own advice, right? Our imposter syndrome, our brains are like, stay safe, stay here because it's okay, like it's safe, but it's not fun. And when it's not fun, it's no longer worth doing. We're not here to stay in a box. It keeps us playing small. And you know what, Sherry, you and I, we're too big to play small. And so is everybody listening.
There what you said and the steps you took to move beyond your insurance job.
Yeah, it's funny you say insurance job because it kind of was that, but it wasn't in insurance. I was actually in the world of staffing. But it's funny you say
Oh,
insurance because
okay.
it sort of gave me that insurance that I would be able to continue to make money and get a good job that had benefits with it. What did I do to step out of that? I think really once I could break free of it and once I resigned, and it took me 2 years to resign. I resigned and then they would hire me back and then my family would be, like it's safer there and they want you and they love you. And my ex-husband definitely did not want me to quit. He wanted me to keep working there. So there was a lot that was trying to keep me there, myself and others. But when I finally broke out of it, I thought, what am I naturally good at? What do I naturally love to do? What is it that I can do that most people would really see as difficult or hard that's easy for me? And when you start looking at that and you can help other people do the things that might come easy to you but are more difficult to others, you realize that you have something that other people really want. And even if you're not an expert at it, at the time I was not a high level coach or speaker or keynoter or anything. I was just really good at speaking and teaching. And you have to think in terms of shifting that narrative that I'm not good enough. I'm not an expert yet. What if they find out that I only have my own personal experience and not a whole bunch of certifications or letters after my name? What if they find out that I'm an imposter, right? That it sort of creeps up. And what you really need to think is that even a second grader is a genius to a kindergartner, right? If you're a kindergartner and you're going to school for the first time and you just want to know where to put your lunch and where to sit at the lunch tables and, how to find, like where to hang your coat, if you have to ask the principal of the school, you would be terrified. But if a second grader can come up and sort of help you get to that next level, you'll feel warm and safe and helped and comforted. So even if you feel like you're not that expert, you're not the principal of the school yet, of course you're not. But that doesn't mean you can't help people do the next thing. You're the most qualified to help the people that are a few steps behind you is all.
And you give examples of how you help and continue to help the kindergartners.
Oh, sure. I think there are a lot of people out there who are just getting started in speaking and they're very nervous about it. One of the tips that I give is I know a lot of people give the tip like, picture the audience in their underwear. Well, Sherry, if I had to picture my audience in my underwear, their underwear, I'd be a lot more uncomfortable. It would not make me more comfortable, it would make me less comfortable. But what you can know, and what I learned, and now what I help other people understand, is that scientifically, chemically in your body, those feelings are really happening. Maybe your stomach is doing flip flops, or your breathing is getting faster, or your ears are ringing, or your head is spinning, and you feel that chemically in your brain. So you can't just pretend it doesn't exist, and you can't just picture the audience in their underwear, and you know that this is really happening to you. But here's a trick that you can do using your brain. Your brain chemically does not know the difference between fear and excitement or nervousness and excitement. So if you say, I'm so nervous to get on stage and you're feeling all those feelings, say to yourself instead, I'm excited to get on the stage. Because as soon as you turn on the excitement, then your brain recognizes all the chemicals and all the feelings that you're feeling as excitement instead of as nerves or fear. So when you're excited to go on a roller coaster, let's say, maybe your stomach's doing flip flops, maybe you're breathing faster, your ears are ringing, or your head is spinning. Same thing as being afraid. But if you can change that methodology or that message that you're getting from fear to excitement and say, I'm excited to get on stage, it can open up a whole new world for you. So if you feel like you're just not ready yet to get on stage because you're afraid or you're nervous, maybe that will be the next level place where you can hang your coat or store your lunch and figure out how you can be a little bit more excited instead of nervous to get on stage.
Right. Let's go back to that point where your family and then husband were not on board with your new ideas. What happened? What did that look like? I know from my own experience that is ugly. It can be ugly.
Yeah, it's not easy. And yes, it was my family and friends and my then husband that were trying to keep me over in this other world. And it was ugly. It was what Brene Brown calls a spiritual awakening slash breakdown. I didn't love that part. It was not easy. And it was just having, looking back from the other side, it's easy to say that, it was a matter of me trusting myself, which is true. It was a matter of me knowing what I really wanted to do and loved to do and trusting that that would bring me to safety again, that that would allow for me to have a business and a structure and an income that would be equally amazing and even more amazing than working in corporate. It would be easy for me to say that I just trusted and I knew, but I didn't. There was a lot of doubt that happened at the time. I didn't know that. In fact, I really didn't believe that people would pay me to be able to just speak and share what I knew on stage and be able to go on podcasts and be able to inspire others to step into the spotlight and share their stories. And I didn't really believe that that would allow me to make both a living and a difference in the world. And it did in the long run, but in going through it, there's a lot of self-doubt. So how do you deal with that? If you are going through a period of self-doubt or fearfulness, having the ability to have faith isn't always there. But a trick that you can use, sort of a hack, if you will, is to imagine your future self that is successful. Looking back at you now, what would your future self say to you if she was, in fact, super successful and had made it through? And your future self might say, I know you were really suffering. I know it was really hard. I know that you felt nobody believed that you could make it happen. But I'm here to tell you that when you come out the other side, it's easier than you're making it. It's easier than you thought it would be. It's possible. When you come out the other side, it's going to be a giant relief to know that you followed what was inside you. And what's happening when you do that is you're shifting the story that's going on in your head. Because what the story that's going on in your head right now is they must be right. They're probably right. I don't think it's going to work. I don't know how I'm going to make this work. It can't really be possible for people to, I can't make a living and a difference in the world doing something that I've never done before. I don't want to start over. Like that's what's going on in your head right now. But if you can shift it to something that is a more positive, encouraging narrative, then you'll be able to feel a little bit more comfortable moving the next step forward and taking that right next step. Like, what's the right next step that you can do right now? And that's, whether it's from a movie trailer or whatever it is, you need to make sure that you're shifting your narrative to something that's empowering for you instead of something that's attacking you, whether that's externally or worse, internally. Those messages are coming.
Yes. Absolutely. Yes. How did you go from imposter syndrome or doubts, taking on the negativity of those closest to you and transcending that into doing and being who you are.
I think when we pay attention, the first thing that we have to do is pay attention to the messages that we are receiving externally and internally. And we sometimes can't even hear it. For example, when we're young, we might say, we were the oldest in the family, so we always had to be responsible for everybody else. And while being the oldest in the family might be true, the story that we attach to that, now we have to be responsible for everything else, everyone else, is really the story that we can shift. That's the narrative that's spinning in our heads, but maybe reaching for something that's a little more empowered than that can help us step out of the stuckness. So if we're being stuck by saying we were the oldest, so we always had to be responsible for everyone, instead of saying that, we might say, well, I was the oldest, so my parents gave me a lot of autonomy when I was young, which means I could take leadership roles much more easily than others when I got into business. And that is also true, but it's more empowering than the last story we were telling. So in my situation, while it was true that I was starting from scratch, I had built a career that was working and I just didn't love it anymore, but it was very lucrative. And I was going to have to start over. And I really didn't even know where I was going. And I didn't know what the next right step was. And I wasn't sure, who would support me. Changing all those narratives to something that's more empowering can help you get to the next right step. So for example, for me, it was, I'm not starting over. I have been speaking since I was 3, just like all of us. I'm not starting from scratch. I have some examples in my past of when I was a powerful speaker, both at corporate and then in my personal life, and then in my hobbies, where I would teach or share, and people would love what I did. So now, instead of saying I'm starting from scratch, finding those examples of other things that are also true was very empowering. To be able to say, I'm not starting from scratch. I am starting from some level of experience, more experience than some people have. Some people have never taught in a hobby or something like that. Some people were never, I was on stage and I was the lead in a play in 6th grade, right? So I'm not afraid of speaking. I'm not afraid of getting on stage. I'm not afraid of the microphone. And so I'm further along than some people who are still struggling with those things. So I have this narrative now that's more supportive of you're going to be able to be successful at this. When you are struggling and finding all of those stories that you're beating yourself up with, whether they're your own stories or stories that are being told by somebody else, you're not good enough, Kimberly, you're too young for that, you're too old for that, you're too fat for that, you're too whatever for that, right? To be able to just change the narrative slightly, to be able to give yourself a more empowering message was really the secret to my success. It's what moved me one step at a time forward. And it wasn't, like I said, it wasn't an overnight success. I know people sell that on TV and on YouTube or whatever. They're like, just do this and tomorrow you'll be a bazillionaire. But while that could be true for one in a bazillion, it's not true for everybody. A lot of times for us, it's just working the problem one step at a time and allowing it to unfold in a positive way and encouraging ourselves along the way. And even if we're not getting encouragement from other people, taking the time to celebrate the small wins. I taught a class and I didn't throw up. I went online and 2 people showed up. I went, I sold my first $7 PDF. And then each sort of thing that you can do is another win that encourages you to take the next natural step. And eventually stacking those wins can be very powerful.
Yeah, absolutely. There, then what you did once leaving corporate, how you did build your business to where you are today. Give us that.
Yeah, I love it. The very first thing you need to do is get clear. I do have an amazing process to be able to figure that out. And the very first step on it is get clear. And I know that coaches teach that all the time. We need to get clear on who your target market is. We need to get clear on what your offer is. We need to get clear on what your pricing is. We need to get clear on what your webinar is going to say. We need to get clear on your talk. And while all that can be helpful, they miss the most important thing that we need to get clear on. The most important thing we need to get clear on is not about them. It's about us. We need to get clear on what we want to do. The very first thing we need to do is get clear on what we want to do, what we love doing, what we love doing now. Because what we loved doing before, 15 years of my 17-year career was pretty good. I really loved my work. And the last two, I really didn't anymore. So I had to get clear on what I wanted now. What do I want? And when I got clear on it, this may not be what everybody would want, but I told a coach, I said, I want to travel all over the world. I want to go see my friends and I want my friends to come see me. I want to teach and share what I know with other people. I want to get paid really well for it. And I want to be able to inspire other people to raise their voice and share their message with the world. I want to be able to have events, but unlike community theater where you have to go to 12 weeks of rehearsal beforehand, which that would mean I couldn't travel. I loved community theater, but I was like, I don't even want the rehearsal. I just want to do the event. I want to do the show. And then when I have the show, the great news is it happens and it's really exciting. And then it's over and I can get back to the rest of my life of traveling. But then when it's over, you're kind of sad. So I want to know when the next event is. And I already want to have it scheduled. And unlike community theater, where you have to audition for each one, I want to already know that I got that next part, right? That I already got it. And she said, I know that you can have that. And I said, no, there's no way I can have that. It's impossible. There's no way that people would pay me, that I could make a living and make a difference in the world just by doing what I love. And she said, I absolutely believe you can do that. Well, 2 years later, I looked back at the steps I took in my life once she had given me that confidence of, I know that that can happen for you. And I still didn't believe it for many months. But as I took steps in that direction and started traveling and started creating events and started creating possibility, did stuff online and did stuff in person. And the more I built, the more steps I took, the more people were behind me, the more people thought, wow, nobody else is doing this. Nobody else is teaching this. Nobody else is sharing this. I would love to learn more about it. And the great news is I got to bring my own personality in it. And I teach, if it's not fun, it's not worth doing. And I teach, get clear on what you want first. And I teach about what I did in order to get there. And that's what really made the big difference in the world. So first, get clear on what you want before you get clear on anything else. Figure out what makes you light up. There's a great, very, very powerful quote from Martin Luther King Jr.'s mentor. His name was Howard Thurman. And he said, do not ask what the world needs. Ask what lights us up. Because what the world needs is more people who are lit up. And I thought, that is so true. And it's been true for me. And I hope it's true for everybody else as well. Because what we need to do is do the things that light us up. Because that's what the world needs.
Yes, yes. There is so much I want to hear from you. How about you share the opportunities that came with that mindset and incorporate into that your travel. When did you begin traveling, and was it the outcome of you washing your hands of your old life and starting new?
Well, when I started traveling full time, it was actually, I didn't even know that was a thing. And in January of 2020, right before COVID happened, I met a person, a friend of a friend, on a cruise ship. And he said, "Nice to meet you. Where are you from?" And I said, "San Diego." And he said, "Where?" And I said, "Where are you from?" And he said, "I travel full time." And I said, "Oh, interesting." And then I said, "Wait, what? What is traveling full time?" I knew immediately that this was something that I needed to learn more about and figure out how to do, because I knew that travel was something that was a huge passion for me. He described how he traveled full time, that he had many houses, but they were all rented out. He lived on cruise ships and in resorts and went to events, stayed in hotels, and sometimes stayed with friends and family, and then went on safaris and all kinds of really cool stuff. And I thought, gosh, I really want to do that. And immediately I put it on my bucket list. Like, I'm going to do that eventually. But I still had my youngest son at home. The good news was he was going away to college, and my oldest was already launched. And when he went away to college, he was going in August of 2020. Well, that was still the year of COVID. But in August of 2020, when my son moved out, we decided that I would sell all the furniture in the house, sell everything that was in the house, get rid of everything. I put 2 suitcases and my laptop bag in a car, and I rented out the house and I started traveling full time. And it was an amazing experience. It wasn't easy at the beginning because with COVID, there was a lot of protections that we had to make sure, and washing your hands and wearing masks and keeping 6 feet apart and all the other things. But as I got more and more comfortable with being sort of in that travel modality, it became much more easy for me to be anywhere, whether I was in a hotel or at a resort, traveling internationally. I stayed in an amazing resort in Playa del Carmen, Mexico for 4 weeks, and it was all inclusive, and it was like $100 a night because they were trying to attract people to it. And it was exquisite. It was a 5-star resort. It was totally beautiful. And I thought, this is the life. Like, this is fantastic. Yes, traveling full time was an amazing adventure. And it went sort of hand in hand with my new business. I could not have done that if I was working for a corporation and had 4 weeks of vacation or 2 weeks of vacation. If I started somewhere new, I wouldn't be able to travel full time, right? But once I had my own business and was able to do that online and part of my business is going to events in different cities. And so when I go to events and speak in different cities, that's part of my job, but it's also where I live. So it sort of goes hand in hand to be able to do that. And when you don't have to pay without rental income, you don't have to pay a mortgage, right? So that covers that. Plus, you don't pay an electricity bill. You don't have a gardener. You don't have a landscaper. You don't have a pool person or a maid anymore. Once you don't have any of that stuff and you save all that money, traveling full time is not that much more expensive than your regular life, believe it or not. So I did enjoy that very, very much.
What salute and your love training.
What concluded it? Is that your question?
Yeah.
It hasn't concluded yet. I still travel full time. That was in 2020. We're recording this podcast mid 2025. So in August, it will be officially 5 years that I've traveled full time. But I spend a lot of time near family and friends when I'm not at a particular event. And then in the summertime, I actually I travel internationally for events throughout the year. But in the summertime, I usually try to travel someplace and stay there for a period of time. So for the last 3 summers now, we've traveled to Europe, and I stayed in Spain or France or Spain again, because I love Spain. In fact, this year we're either going to go to Costa Rica or Spain. So I think that's probably my summer home now, and it's delightful.
You said that we will spend summer
Oh,
in.
yes, we will spend summer in Spain. And who is we? My children come stay with me. And I have a couple of good friends that come and stay with me. Last year, I went with a good friend of mine and a business colleague, Jennifer. And she and I rented a casita in Spain that overlooked the water there, the sea, I guess, Mediterranean. And it was beautiful to be able to be on the 8th floor. When we walked down, there were cafes and shops and restaurants, and it was just delightful. So I always try to find company to come with me. It's not always a partner, but it's oftentimes, or it could be family member, or it could just be a friend that come with me. But I try to go with somebody, so I'll have somebody to play with.
As you know, I am also traveling abroad.
Nice.
So you would talk a little bit about that, and then tell us about your event on Wednesday, the 18th.
Awesome. Yes, I have traveled. I think you were asking me where I've traveled and the extent of that. I have been to Costa Rica, Ecuador, Peru, France, Italy, Amsterdam. The weirdest place I went, and I shouldn't say weird, but the most far-reaching place I've been has been Baku, Azerbaijan, which is in the Middle East, which was quite an experience. It was, I'm not that into architecture, but the architecture is breathtaking there. It's just like, and when we see our buildings, we're like, oh yes, a nice big square building or whatever, and it's got some shiny things on it. And you go there and it's completely different. Like they just rethought all of it. It's almost like a Dr. Seuss novel with like the way they build the buildings. It's incredible. I love that. I have yet to be to Japan or China, traveling a lot. But I won't be going there until summertime. I'm sorry, till wintertime here, because it's summertime on the south of the equator. And you have to think of that, right? So where we are going, it's freezing cold right now in the middle of the summer, but in wintertime, it'll be much warmer. So we'll definitely go there. I think it's Patagonia, I think is where it is. Is where I was thinking, yes. So.
No, it is. Okay, tell us about your upcoming event, which I am thrilled to be not only a podcast host, but on the panel.
Yes, I'm very excited about this event. So Podapalooza is a one-day virtual event that happens 2 or 3 times a year. It is all about helping people find podcasts and podcasts find guest speakers. So if you're an expert or you would like to start getting interviewed on podcasts, you might want to check it out, because this particular time we're very proud to have as one of our featured podcasters, Sherry Lee Roberts. She's going to be amazing. And she's going to be conducting interviews during the event, along with about 29 other podcasters. So if you'd like to meet Sherry and some of the other podcasters, come check it out. She will be conducting interviews in her own private breakout room during the event. And 10 or 11 lucky people will be able to be interviewed by her. That said, we have also asked Sherry to speak on a panel. This panel is the first of its kind in this particular event, but we're going to be talking about people who are disabled in different ways and ways that we can make life more accommodating and more accessible to folks who have a disability of one kind or another, whether that's a verbal or a visual disability or something else that might prevent them from giving the world the impact and the contribution that the world needs, just because there is a difficulty with something that could be easily accommodated. So we're delighted to have Sherry come and speak on this panel to share with us what the rest of us might not be thinking about to be able to make accommodations for folks with disabilities. So I'm delighted that you are speaking on that. We're honored to have you.
Berkeley, I cannot wait. Thank you.
Thanks for listening to this episode of Transcending Trauma, the Spiritual Odyssey. If you're working to overcome trauma and would like to work with me or be a guest on my show, contact me through my website at shariroberts.org. Please hit the follow button to make sure you don't miss any episodes. I'd love to connect with you on LinkedIn at Shari Roberts. You can find all the links in the show notes. I'd love to hear from you. I'm Shari Roberts, your host, reminding you that you're never alone. Until next time, sending you love and light.